programs lined up. Yesterday about 2, 3 o'clock they called and said we can't make it. So I'm like, oh, who am I gonna get? Started thinking of people in town that do great things, have great outreach. That's what makes this community special. We have a lot of great people that do special things behind the scenes, sometimes in the limelight, but overall, Hicksville has a lot of good organizations, good people, good churches that do a lot for our community in different ways. And I thought of Pastor AJ. Been a friend with him since he moved to town here. Enjoyed talking to him several times throughout the year. But I called him here, 45 an hour ago, and said, hey, AJ, Pastor AJ, what are you doing today? And he's like, I don't know, I might be hanging out with you. And I said, yeah, Rotary. Come to So he was gracious enough to accept my invitation for lunch and also present his things happening in his church, along with maybe some of the other activities he's got going on in town. So let's give a warm welcome to Pastor AJ Swanson.
I want to say it's a pleasure to be with you again. I think I was here my first year a while ago. First thing I do want to say, I've been here over 3 years now, which is crazy to think that time moves fast. And I've gotten to know many of you in this room over the course of those 3 years, and I'm just grateful for your friendship, getting to do life with all of you at different parts of the year. As someone who's an outsider, thank you for making me feel part of this community in a very real and tangible way. Thank you so much. We got here, I'm the type of person that I try to see how I can get plugged into a community. I've lived in a lot of places, and so this is just a habit of mine. How do I plug in and love people well wherever the Lord puts me? And so I get to serve in 3 specific areas within the community that I'd like to touch on a little bit today. Now the first one, which I'm not going to spend too much time on, is the Huber Opera House. I'm on the board of the Huber. I love being in a community that has a place like the Opera House, in which we get to love and serve the community well. I actually got my undergrad in theater, and so to be in a small town and actually be able to use that large piece of debt that I acquired over the course of 4 years to be a benefit to the community is wonderful. And so I've been a part of the Huber board for 2 years now, and will be directing the kids show this summer as it comes up. So I'm actually very excited about that. The second thing I was involved in when I was in Texas, one of the things that I did, along with being in Charlotte, I've now done it for over 20 years, which is crazy to think. I've been a soccer coach since I was 18. It was one of my first ways that I gave back to the community, and I've done it now for over 20 years. And so when we got here, there was a lot of interest from people, just from talking to people in town. They would love to have a Hicksville specific team. And so we started Hicksville Club Soccer. We call it Club Soccer because we're the aces in town, and so a club is part of the cards of the school. So we are Club Soccer here in Hicksville. It started out with 12 kids on one team 3 years ago, and we've now grown to regularly have about 50 to 60 kids across 4 different age groups and 4 teams here in town. It continues to grow every year. So we are not doing outdoor soccer this year. We started our indoor soccer at Hicksville Mennonite Church yesterday, which was wonderful to be in the heat as it snowed outside and to practice soccer there instead of being outside. Because this time last year, we had Hicksville specific teams playing in an Auburn Spring League. So we had 4 teams out on the field behind our church practicing 2, 3, 4 times a week in the freezing cold. And so as a Florida boy, it was wonderful at practice last night indoors. One of the things that we want to do with Hicksville Club Soccer, one is we want to give people a chance to kind of like we have, grow in the community. We have a lot of Hicksville natives on our soccer teams. We also have a lot of non-Hicksville natives that are on our soccer teams. People that have moved into town through whether it be work or marrying in, and this gives them a chance to have community to have a shared goal and to have a shared time to be with other families, cheering on other kids. And so that's one of the goals for Hicksville Club Soccer. Another one of the goals, which is really important to me, especially as a coach, is to give kids the opportunity to fail. It's why I love youth sports. There's not a lot of opportunities for kids to fail nowadays. We give them a lot of opportunities to succeed, but not to fail well. And sports allows us to do that. You try something, you literally swing and you miss. And everyone goes, oh, right? But how a student responds to that and how coaches respond to that help prepare our kids for the rest of their lives. And so we want to give students and kids an opportunity to fail so that they can grow up and find success even as they face adversity and failure. And so that's one of the things that we do at Hicksville Club Soccer. We have most of our coaches are parents who maybe played soccer as a kid when they were 4, 5, or 6. So I get to coach the coaches. But we're starting to get people, again, ironically, from out of town who have come in and actually played soccer as a kid. And we're starting to get some coaches who actually know that it's called football and not soccer in most of the rest of the world. So it's fun. I know, shocking. Use your feet.
Oh, you did that.
Yeah. If you score a point, it's 1 point, not 6 or 7 or 3, depending on. We know, right, Hicksville's never going to have a soccer team. We're just not a big enough school. But I messed with Lucas when we started it. I messed with Justin now that he's the head football coach. It's like my goal as a club is that anytime we're in the 50, we should be able to put points on the board long term. So we should have some kickers and punters for the football team here coming up in the next few years. So there is that. We just know that the kids are going to begin to transition to other sports in junior high. So we supplement some of the desires for them to get on the field, run around, and engage in a fun game that the rest of the world plays. The third thing that I spend the majority of my time doing is I am the pastor at Hicksville Cornerstone Church. That's the reason I came here. I got the job at Hicksville. I get to partner with Jack Teeple, who's still on staff. He was one of the pastors there before I got here, and has been a staple of this community for well over 20 years. So now we do ministry there. Our vision as a church is everyone a disciple. We desire everyone to be a disciple of Jesus. And so my congregation is sick of me saying that from the pulpit. Everyone a disciple, everyone a disciple, everyone a disciple. How we do that, we think, is very in line with what has taken place across the globe and much of the early church. And that is putting people in a place to be discipled and then to make disciples. The last words of Jesus before he ascended into heaven were go and, well, first, let me always quote the beginning part. All authority in heaven on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go, make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all I've commanded you. And behold, I will be with you. I will be with you. I will be with you to the very end of the age. And so that call, that charge that Christ has given us, we're trying to fulfill in a small town in our area. And so everyone a disciple is kind of the battle cry. We started 2 years ago. We got what we called a core group together of disciple makers, which were 8 individuals. And we learned what it means like to be a disciple, right? We went through a disciple-making process together. For those of you that might not be aware of what it means to be a disciple in the church, one is to know the scriptures, to know one another, and then to live out our Christian convictions together, to love our neighbor, right? And so it's those 3 things. And so our disciple groups get together. They're triads or quads, 3 or 4 people. They gather, they open up the Bible, they see what it says, they talk about it, they pray for one another, and then they scatter. And so 2 years ago, we had 8 people that gathered, which is our core group of disciple makers. Those 8 of them, 7 of them, one of them they had to leave town, they got married and went elsewhere, but 7 of them started disciple-making groups within the church, and some people outside the church as well. And we had 30 people involved in disciple-making groups. We just launched our 3rd generation, so those people that were in those groups are now leading groups of their own. And those are beginning to sprout off in the next couple months. And the prayer for this is that there would be 75 people that would be involved in disciple-making ministry here at Hicksville. because many of them don't actually come to our church on a Sunday. The big prayer that we have, the big prayer, and I'm telling you this so you can keep me accountable about it. You can ask me about it in 10 years is the hope. The big prayer is that 10 years we'll have 450 people within the village of Hicksville and the surrounding area that are in disciple-making groups. 450, if you're doing the math, is about a tithe of all of Hicksville. And can you imagine a tithe of all of Hicksville getting together, praying for our community, doing work and doing benefit for our community, encouraging one another, looking at the Word of God and being led by it, how that could not have an impact on our community. And so that's our big prayer as a church. We desire to see Hicksville flourish, hence why Hicksville is in the title of our church. That's a focus for us. We desire Hicksville to have revival, to know Jesus, to know the gospel, and to live lives that benefit not just them, but to benefit their neighbors. And so we're seeing that happen, and it has been a wonderful ride. I'm here 3 years. I hope I'm here in 30, and I hope that I get to be at Rotary Club a couple more times to share with you how the Lord is at work in the different areas that I get to be involved in, which is a blessing to me. I consider it a blessing that I get to be a pastor. It's a blessing to be a coach. And it's a blessing to sometimes be a director or just somebody up in the very top of the Huber, pulling those ropes, holding on for dear life and hoping that I don't fall to my death, or swing to my death, depending on how the rope pulls. But I get to be involved in those areas. And again, I'll end with this. It's a pleasure to know all of you and to get to know you in different contexts and then grow with you as we do life together in this community. I still don't know who you are since this has gone away.
It's younger, I might look.
I know, you do look younger. I'm with you on that.
Gray hair,
But
I need a job, but I do look.
it throws me off still. I keep
Okay.
looking for it.
That's only been gone about a year.
So, I still look for it. I still wait for it. It was beautiful. It's beautiful. So that's all I have, unless question. You're welcome to ask me whatever. Greg.
I have a statement and a question. Statement is Rotary does meet every Tuesday. You put that on the calendar. Is there opportunity, and maybe you've seen that in your soccer, in the soccer club. As I understand it, there's a reasonable amount of, for lack of a politically correct term, immigrant population
Yes.
that comes and works in local business and so forth. Have you been able to make any inroads with?
We've been able to make inroads with the kids. We even have had several of the students from the school come out and practice with us on a regular basis, especially during the fall season. The kids speak English. The adults, many of them don't speak English, so reaching the adults has been more difficult. But we're already in touch with Lapidas, so the hope is in the fall, Maria and a couple of the crew over at Lapidas will be providing our sign-up forms in Spanish.
Good.
And then it won't just be English, go on the internet to do it. The rest of us go on the internet and they sign up online and pay online. We'll hope to do it through Lupitas next year, and that'll be a hub that'll funnel many of those, the immigrants, the Latino population into our, into our teams.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So when I lived in Texas, it was very similar. When I was coaching in Texas, there were years where about 40% of my team, their parents only spoke Spanish. And so by the grace of God, I had a Spanish assistant coach, and so he could translate for me. But here, I haven't had that opportunity yet. Maybe I'll get that chance in the past. I failed Spanish twice in high school, so I just know that that's not going to be my spiritual gift. Not once, twice.
So what show are you going to direct, and what age group for the kids this summer?
So they got me doing the kids camp. So that is with, I think it's, I might be wrong, first, second, or third grade. It's in there all the way to about 6. So it's the kids camp that
Okay.
runs those 2 weeks in June. We're doing Stone Dragon Stew, which is a play about a dragon who is throwing stones on a village. It is a dark comedy with great number of puns and absurdity, which is, as you know me, directly up my alley. So it'll be phenomenal. Be a lot of fun. Yes?
Are you doing the sunrise service on Easter at the cemetery?
Because Easter is so early this year, that the Florida boy in me, it makes me think it's just way too cold. it's always in the back of our minds to do that. And our hope is to do that every couple of years at the cemetery, to do the sunrise service again. So it's not on the table this year, but we will be out there again in the future.
You're doing a community Good Friday service.
Yes, so we're partnering with several churches in town, Grace, Steve's church, Hicksville Mennonite Church, and our church. We're gonna be meeting at Hicksville Mennonite Church for a 7 p.m. Good Friday service. Everyone here is welcome to attend. It should be a great time. So some of my favorite people in town are Steve and Jay. And you know, if I didn't have my job, I'd probably be at their church on Sunday, cheering them on and getting to hear them. And so the Good Friday services always give us a chance to hear one another preach and encourage one another. And therefore I can actually be there in person. Many times I'll turn them on Bookface when I get home. It's called Facebook. I mock it and call it Bookface. But many times I'll turn them on when I get home and listen to them and like their video and stuff. So.
Tell us about the Christmas service, AJ. AJ's the driving force behind our Christmas service.
So I just swing at a lot of things. So I'm on the board at the Huber, and because I'm a pastor, I'm like, well, what's a way that, look, I love how I forget who said it. Susan, you might know that. You might know who said it. But someone called the Huber the crown jewel of Hicksville. And I'm convinced that it really is. It's what, the story itself is incredible. The community that rallies behind it brings this theater back to life. And now it has its own production company within the Huber, so we're producing our own shows in a village of 4,500 people, which is unheard of, and a hemp theater, which is, you can count the number of hemp theaters in the country. Well, maybe all hands and toes, but it's very limited. So we have an amazing, historic, beautiful space. And so I was like, well, let's have a Christmas event at the Huber. And so we partnered with several churches in town and have had Christmas at the Huber for the past 3 winters. And we've had great community feedback. We get to partner with HIX-TV, which is always a blessing, Bill, and then bring that to the community on a regular basis as well. So that's another way that we get to all be involved and hang out with one another. The selfish part of me, I just get to hang out with my friends at the holidays. And so that just gives me great joy. So.
Bryce and I flunked theater. I don't know how we did it in Spanish. So what's a hemp theater?
So we have a pulley system, so all those pulleys.
Drug thing?
No, but that is a question we get asked on a regular basis when we do tours. What do you guys hide in here? What do you store? Not that. So we have a rope system that they used for hundreds of years when it regards to a pull weight system. And so it's the hemp of the rope and then the bags that we use to do counterweights for the rope, or many times are hemp as well. So it's called a hemp theater. Most theaters in the country have gone to a counterweight system with actual weights that are actually much safer because they run along the side of the building. They don't hang over your head as you're about to walk on stage. So when we give tours, all the theater nerds like me come in and are like, oh man, this is awesome. Because it's the way they did theater for hundreds of years. And so it's very cool because you don't see that. I think the closest one we have is around maybe Canton area. I mean, it's not, it's unique. It's unique. Any other question? Yes?
So you talked about your spring soccer season is indoor. Are you going to do a fall outdoor?
Yes, so that we made that. So here was the dilemma. We could continue to partner with Auburn, and we partner with Harlan Soccer in the fall. So we could continue to partner with these specific leagues. The problem is we make no money from these specific leagues. We just provide teams. And we're in drastic need of goals and equipment and paint, like line paint to actually paint the fields. We don't have any of this. And so doing something locally, which is under the Hicksville Club Soccer umbrella, we could raise doing this several $1,000s. So we've already got our goals covered for the fall now. We didn't have the size goals that the kids actually shot on, for fall soccer last fall. We had to put 2 goals together and pretend it was a foot taller. And now we have actual goals that the kids actually shoot on. And then we didn't have line paint last year. Well, honest, some of that was it was so wet. So we couldn't get out there and take the several hours to do it. But hopefully we'll have line paint this year for the kids to actually practice on an actual field. So, that's why we did it, it's the big reason.
Well, I might speak out of turn, but there could be an opportunity through the Rotary Foundation for some funds if funds were in need.
If I ever need it, I'll definitely request it. Honestly, we've had such a generous group that has given us funds over the years to be able to supply things that I haven't felt the need to actually request it from people yet. And this provides us an opportunity to kind of raise it in-house, so, which is great. So if you see club soccer gear around town, you know what that is. So club soccer is Hicksville Club Soccer, like the playing card.
Will it be a playing card soccer,
Yes.
or will it say club?
It'll say that it'll actually have the club. So, or on the club, on the U, sometimes it has the club logo. I should have brought that. I have hats and everything. I have swag. I could have passed it out to everyone here. Man, missed opportunity. Next time, give me 45 minutes.
I
instead of
can,
a half
you
hour.
keep talking.
So-
We're leaving, but you keep
Any
talking.
other
Any
questions?
other questions for AJ?
Very good.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for coming and speaking about the programs there at the church and the soccer leagues and everything you do in our community. It takes special people, and I know our ministers here in our community do a lot for the community and outreach and learn about Jesus Christ and be disciples. So thank you, Steve, and definitely thank you, AJ, for all you do for our community. Don't forget to pick up your applications to take back with you to think about some members. And after that, we will dismiss with the Pledge of Allegiance.